We've always been fascinated with the Hyrox athletes, and we're now going to do an interview series where we get the chance to pick their brains, ask them about them and ask them about their world of Hyrox.
We've always wanted to do this and it's taken a while to get here, but we are really nosy, so we're going to ask them lots of nitty-gritty questions and I hope you enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Zara Piergianni. I'm part of the Elite 15 and a UK athlete.
What got you started in Hyrox and how long have you been competing?
So what got me started in Hyrox? I came from a sporting background. So at school, I played everything from netball, football, rounders, and always used to do running as a bit of like a mental well-being and outlet. And then we move around a lot, so I joined a lot of CrossFit boxes. So basically all of those things combined, I knew that I had a pretty good engine and a pretty good strength background. So back in November 2022, when I did my first Hyrox doubles race, I thought I'll give this new sport a go because it played to all my strengths, and the rest is history.
What advice would you give to someone who's new to Hyrox or looking to improve their performance?
Don't neglect the running. The running is so important. It's over 50% of the race. And whilst 8K looks really easy on paper, actually from a compromise perspective, it feels very different. So really make sure that you're working on your aerobic base and focusing on kind of steady state zone 2, zone 3 initially, and then you can move into race pace specifics.
What's been your biggest challenge in Hyrox so far and how did you overcome it?
My biggest challenge in Hyrox probably would be having imposter syndrome and sort of the fear of stepping into the Elite 15. I think in the first year that I did Hyrox, I was quite successful and kind of didn't realise that I'd get to the point that I did do so quickly. So I think the challenge is actually overcoming my fear, believing in myself and my capabilities, so that actually now when I step on the start line, I feel like I really deserve a place amongst the best.
What is a typical week of training for you?
Okay, so a typical week training. I mean, my volume is pretty high at the moment because we are very much in race season. So I do train probably slightly differently amongst a lot of people, because every day will combine strength elements, it will combine more conditioning, metcon elements where I'm working on station work or exercises that translate into station work. It will either always include like an easy run or intervals. So for example, Monday might be easy run, a little bit of strength, either push, pull, and then a nice metcon. Tuesdays and Fridays are more interval based, so that is my race pace specific work with different work to rest ratios. Wednesday can be again a combination of those things, but an easy run with maybe some like upper strength and then some applied strength working on power. Thursday, be glad to hear, is active recovery, so often offbeat, looking at kind of erg work to focus on breathing, technique, etc. And then Saturday and Sunday are pretty high intense days, which would either combine easy running, strength running, and then some strength running as well.
What's the most memorable Hyrox moment you've experienced?
My most memorable Hyrox experience has to be taking part in the World Country Relay back in Nice in June. It was my first ever relay and probably the wildest and most chaotic experience of my life, but it was incredible. Like I do a lot of solo races, so actually to be part of an incredible team amongst Kate, Sandy and Jake, and to come away with the win was absolutely epic. So myself, Sandy, Michael Sandbach, Jake Williamson and Kate Davey. Strong team!
How do you handle the mental demands of a Hyrox race?
I think I'm still handling the mental side of Hyrox. In all honesty, you have to look at the evidence, which is basically around your training. So when I go into a race, it's nothing that I've not done before. I know my race paces, I know where I feel like I need to push. I also listen to things like podcasts and do like breath work and really look after my recovery. So if I know that I'm feeling really equipped going into a race, then that's what kind of gets me through.
What's your strategy going into a Hyrox race? Do you focus on pacing, specific obstacles, or overall intensity?
Yeah, in terms of my race strategy, obviously it will tend to change in terms of whether I'm going into like an elite race or doubles race. And I've had to work quite hard on specific stations. So for me, actually, it's all about sticking to my threshold pace, which is sort of the pace that you would naturally hold for like a flat out kind of 10, 12K. And then really understanding the areas where I feel that I can push, which often for me is the back end of the race, but I'm working on it being the front of the race as well. And there will always be stations that, you probably do struggle with a little bit. So it's about trying to relax on those, really focusing on your technique, and then it allows you to then push at the runs surrounding it or the following stations.
What are your goals for the future in Hyrox? Any specific competitions or time targets you're aiming for?
So my goal for the upcoming season in Hyrox is to absolutely be on that start line as part of the Elite 15 at Worlds. Is also to take part in all of the majors. I've got Hong Kong coming up in about 4 weeks, Vegas, Glasgow, and just continue to keep pushing my time, keep doing the work in training, and I'm hopefully that will reflect in a PB in the races to come.
Who are your biggest inspirations in sport?
I probably would say a lot of the girls that I race alongside have to be my inspiration, because you know how hard they all work to be on that start line week in, week out. So all of us push each other to do better. Many of them are kind of paving and leading the way now with incredible PBs. So I'd have to say that I look up to them.
What's your nutrition strategy like during training and race day?
So when it comes to nutrition, I'm a real creature of habit. One of the golden rules for me, particularly on race day, is to not do anything or not have anything that you're not used to having. So for me around race day, that meal, the last proper meal around 3 to 3.5 hours before I start, tends to be high carb. Don't really need too much protein, fat or fibre, because obviously carbohydrates are your key fuel source that are going to be used in the race. But in terms of nutrition throughout the week, because of the volume and intensity of my training, it does tend to be high carb. I always sit around the 2 grams per kg of body weight of protein, making sure that I get natural sources, and then obviously a good range and variety of my fruit and veggies for the vitamins and minerals. But thankfully my husband is the cook, and he eats healthy, so I basically just eat what he makes me. I don't track how many calories I have, but that's only because I've been doing it for so long, and as I say, I have kind of very similar meals, breakfast and stuff, so I roughly know how many that I'm getting. But I would then tend to, if for example I'm going into a more intense training block, or in off season for example, my nutrition and my macro split might change in line with what my goal is.
What's your go-to sweet treat?
I do have a sweet tooth, but I do try and limit them as much as I can. But at the weekend, look, the 80-20 rule is great. As long as the sweet tooths or my sweet treats aren't affecting my training, I do tend to give myself a little one for a reward every now and then. It would have to be something like a Biscoff pancake.
This is a series of Hyrox questions, interviews that we're doing. So check out other ones that are coming your way.